Hello everyone, welcome to this commentary over Warframe. Now, I'm just going to say now, the video is not going to be that impressive. I'm not freaking Mirage or anything running through. I'm just an Excalibur. I just started a week ago, or at least it feels like a week ago. But Warframe is a pretty good free game, and as with all things that I think are pretty good, it has a pretty in-depth storyline, and one that I am pretty impressed with. However, they do a lot, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen on the wiki and everything, that they leave a lot of things untold. And me just being a sci-fi person, anime fan, I like to sometimes try to connect up some of the things together. So I was just going to go through a little thought that I had about the Warframe storyline, more particularly that of the Lotus, which she'll be coming up in a moment on the screen like she always does, because she's always there for you. And whatever, yeah, there she is. She's just the internet. It's like if Ghost in the Shell, when they would go into their dives, was like stuck in dive, I suppose. For those of you that don't play Warframe, just a basic storyline. It's set very, very far in the future. It technically is an alternate reality, but it is modeled after our solar system. It has all the planets and it has all the things, and there are essentially two main factions. There's the Tenno, which is the people you play as, and then there's the Grineer, who are, well, we're all people. There's really no, well, I can't lie and say there's alien influences, because there's big Orcan influences. There's basically two main factions, and these aren't the Grineer. These are Corpus. The Corpus are partnered with the Grineer. They're supposed to be robots, which I'll get to later. But robots aren't supposed to have organs come apart when I slash and hack them to death. So there's two main factions: Grineer, which are, I suppose you could say, Earth dwellers. We're all humans, but because humanity has kind of become sent into different factions, I can't really say, that we are together as a race. I'd say the Grineer are the bad guys in the story, even though they have their own purpose. There's a reason why the Tenno are against them, but I don't want to really spoil anything, so I'm just going to leave it vague. But that's not really important what I'm talking about. What I'm trying to say is what my theory is to what the Lotus might be. And to kind of explain this, I'm going to have to go way back and try to piece together what I've read on the wiki as the Warframe backstory, and what I've just, have general knowledge of. And I'm going to try to piece together kind of like what I do with the Oswald Riven thing. Well, I haven't posted that video, but I might make that a thing if this becomes a thing. Or you all like to listen to me talk about my random theories. So, as far as Warframe is concerned, I shall probably explain this best with an example. Much today, we can see that there's a lot that people do not always see eye to eye. That's very common. That's very general knowledge for us to think about. Okay, more to the point of an example. There are people that are religious, there are people that are technology oriented, the people that are scientific. However, they're still religious. They manage to tie in their beliefs to one another, which is something of their own accord. You're free to believe whenever you want. I'm not trying to discriminate or anything. I'm just saying that we all have our own little beliefs. Now, from what I've seen, the Grineer are militaristic, or at least they only show their military side, so they're very warlike, and they expand. They have a lot of quality traits that we actually have now as a human society, where we like to expand, we like to conquer, we like to push our limits with our technology. Even though we realize that our technology is limited, it is not perfect. There's a lot of things like faster than light travel, which we deem impossible, or at least it's impossible based on our perspective from the best minds, thinking about what we have, what we can make with what we have now, and projection that it will not occur, at least not in our lifetime, with the technology we have. With the technology we have, it is quite impossible. Oh, I got sidetracked. Okay, so for my example, I'm going to tie this into the Warframe storyline. Let's say that few centuries from now, we're not going to go that far, millennia. Let's say that this is a very real problem now, but it will become more apparent the further as we progress on Earth, that Earth will not sustain us in the future. It will not happen. We are either going to pollute it to death, or we're going to strip mine it to death, but one way we are going to exhaust all sustainability for human life on Earth. Hopefully not all life in general. Hopefully we don't destroy this planet and we become greedy little leeches that only can parasite off other things. But that is going to inevitably happen, and the best way for us to actually cope with this would be to go to other planets. Other planets would, well, I wouldn't necessarily say other planets because that would take a really long time, but at least have some sort of space voyage. It's not like 2001: Space Odyssey where we go off and do God knows what in the middle of God knows where and blah blah blah. It'd be like us having to live on space stations for the most part, or on moons that we could probably try to terraform that would have basics. They'd have to have the minerals we need, things like iron. They'd have to have a atmosphere that is big enough that it would be able to support if we were to terraform it, meaning that we put plants on there to pull the carbon dioxide out of that atmosphere. Point being, we're going to have to expand, and that is, as we see in Warframe, what the Grenier have done. They have taken these qualities to expand and conquer and capitalized on that. However, they are at bitter arms with the technology that they have because of the Tenno. Now, much like I could relate the Grenier to big business, I can relate the Tenno to, I wouldn't say hippie, because hippies aren't space ninjas with assault rifles. But imagine if an idea had physical power, if it did not just have a mental power to bend the will of people to hear about it, to strengthen its idea, and that's what gives it power. Imagine if it actually had a technology. That is kind of what the Tenno represent. In the storyline, it's not really much of a spoiler, that they find that the Tenno, long before the Grenier actually expanded to the whole solar system, the Tenno became disgusted with their ways, or, well, they weren't Tenno yet. There was a faction that did not like it. They were the hippies. They didn't really think it was just what they were doing. They understood that it was a solution, but it was not a good solution. So they fled Earth using the technology that the Grenier had made, and they attempted to seek some sort of refuge, and this is where it kind of differs from reality. When I say it's an alternate storyline, is that there is a place in the solar system known as the Void. Now, the Void is, if you essentially take the subatomic physical principles, yeah, that's like where it applies. Subatomic physics apply there, rather than normal physics. Which, if you probably don't understand, think of it like this: let's say you throw a tennis ball in the Void, or in some place where quantum physics is more dominant than regular physics, or Newtonian physics, whatever you want to say. Let's say you throw a tennis ball at a wall. I'm going to ask the question, what do you think will happen if you throw a tennis ball at a wall? Now, most of you probably are going to say, well, it's going to hit the wall, it's going to bounce back, it might fly back and hit you in the face if you throw it hard enough. Now, here's the thing. As far as quantum physics is concerned, the ball is going to fly, and it may hit the wall, and, it may just keep flying because it doesn't care. It's going to do its own thing because it's its own boss, and yeah, that doesn't make any sense, and that sounds stupid, but that is actually kind of the thing of quantum physics, and that's why it's hard for people to wrap their heads around it, because essentially take everything that you thought that didn't make sense. There's time travel, there's multiple dimensions, there's cloning, there's disappearing and reappearing, coming in and out of existence itself in the subatomic level. And all this crap is very, very random. Well, it's not as random as, like, to say nothing is truly random if you think about it. But it's pretty random if you were to think about it on the scale that we need to think about it just for this example. So it is pretty random, and basically that's what the Void is like. There is no natural elements that should exist. There's no physics. It's where random crap tends to happen. Now, while seeking shelter in the Void, and I'm using the term seeking shelter loosely, which is a place to escape, they stumbled upon the remains, probably from some place very, very far away, because note that since time and space does not exist in the Void, it's essentially like a wormhole. Anything that goes in is going to stay in there, and whatever, and blah blah. It exists here and now and forever, and you can experience it in that time plane. So let's think of it this way: an ancient alien civilization, or it might not be ancient, but it's a very, very advanced alien civilization, known as the Organ, had artifacts there. And these were so much more superior than what the Grenier had invented. It is far more superior than what humans had thought possible. And what the Tenno did was they decided to use this gift of knowledge that they had been bestowed upon them by, you know, really was freak chance, but you know, if you're out in a struggle environment, then you're going to take things that happen as a sign, and those that fought in the void, those that fought and survived and were able to make use of it. It's kind of like Rambo if you think about it. People with PTSD, people that went out in really chaos and madness and made it their home. They became what are known as the Tenno. Now the Tenno is a faction that embraces the Orokin ways in order to further their cause, which is generally against the Grineer. I'm not quite too sure what their morals are, but I'm assuming that they're a little bit better than the Grineers, considering the Grineer look uglier than a mug. And you may not look human, but I'm pretty sure this is like an Iron Man suit, and you're still a person underneath, despite the fact that yeah, half the Warframe is hard to tell if they're male or female. They're so interesting looking. Oh, I got sidetracked. Moving on. Now, at the time, this does not really explain the Lotus at all, but that's basically the gist of it. They got the technology from the Orokin, and they built the Tenno suits, and those that would be willing to fight, that have lost everything in the Void, those that were veterans of the Void, they donned unique Tenno armor, and yeah, they basically go around being one-man armies of destruction, leveling entire battlefields with the grace of yada yada yada. Take the Last Samurai and put him in space with Master Chief's suit. Yeah, that about sums it up. Now, about the Lotus, there was really nothing in the wiki or in the game that really describes the Lotus. And this was interesting to me because typically something so central, you can see she's popped up in the video like 6 or 7 times by now. I don't know how many times. She keeps popping up. Every time something happens, she lets you know she's kind of, you know, she's a game AI on a free game. She's Captain Obvious, but I think she's a cool little element. She's an interesting thing. But it's just something about the science of it. I question what she is and why she has so much power over the Tenno. Because, okay, there is no description of her. It's just stated in the wiki, which once again, the wiki had to be Captain Obvious because it was writing about Captain Obvious over here, that she is an entity that is going to help you. Outside of that, there's really nothing that you need to know about her. So I've gone and formulated this little thing in my head based upon my knowledge of the Warframe storyline, and I'm going to try to incorporate that into what I've just explained. Now, once again, I'm going to start off this explanation. I'm going to compare the Grineer to the way the Earth is now. We are at a time of great technological advancement, and there's a bit of a struggle because we really don't know where technology is going to take us. It's really we're hitting new boundaries, but we're also hitting some boundaries and skimming past what we didn't think was possible because of, you know, being able to change things up. And it's making it really interesting. There's a lot of interesting things happening in science. I'm not going to go into that discussion for another video. But I'm going to try to make this make sense as best I can. Now, based on what the Lotus looks like, she appears to be human in some respect. She at least has a human figure, which means she was either designed by humans or is a human herself that has been integrated into technology. Now, there's a few things about this. The Grineer are integrated in technology. They are very technological, but their technology is flawed. The human elements of them still age, and because they still age, they're still susceptible to death. So they're kind of like Darth Vader. You know, they're slow, they're clanky, they have the breathing tubes and whatnot. Now, the people that I'm currently decapitating with my awesome sauce pole from Orokin Technology, I don't understand why it took Orokin Technology to make a freaking staff. But anyway, now it's described by someone that you have to rescue in the story of Warframe, Darvo, that the Corpus are all machines. They are a faction made completely of mindless robots and automatons. And because of this, you know, they're basically like the droid army from Star Wars. I have some reason to believe that Darrow is lying to us. I don't want to spoil it, but that's just a thing. That's not an official spoiler. That's just something that I think is happening because I'm sorry. If you paid attention to how many times I gruesomely murder these people by trying to level up my new staff, they bleed, they have organs, and they have rib cages and whatnot. So and they have faces if you take off their heads, you shoot off their helmets or knock off their helmets with whatever weapon you have. So I'm a little bit inclined to believe that this is an issue. But nonetheless, with all of these, regardless of if you're human or if you have technological implants, if you're a cyborg, or how much robotic you are or become, well, actually, they may have said that they're mindless robots because of the Theseus ship debate. But once again, if you don't know about that, basically, if you apply it to humans, let's say you have a human and they need like a spare muscle or something, so you put an artificial one. And it's still fine. You can put in so much artificial crap into a human body to replace the natural stuff. But at some point, people will draw the line and say that's not a person anymore. Like, for example, we can say that a robot, so it's 100% machine, is not a person. However, if that robot started off as a person and we just slowly integrate technology into them to the point where their heart, their lungs, their brain, everything is completely machine, is that still a person? And that's kind of the Theseus ship debate. So it might be a thing where they were taking the side of, they have lost their humanity. They're like freaking 25% human. They may have blood, but that's just about it. That's where I was going with that. Now the Lotus obviously does not have the same limitations as the Grineer and the Corpus, which are at the height of their human technology. Because of this, that gives me reason to believe that the Lotus is based off of the Orokin technology, and that it's the same basic concept, keeping a person alive or integrating them with technology. However, unlike the flawed technology the other ones use, her technology keeps her immortal, but at a cost. Because I will say this now. I do know from the storyline that the Lotus has been around for thousands and thousands of years, and she still looks like she's freaking 20. So, I'm going to go on a limb and say this. The Lotus has what seems to be unparalleled access to all electronics in the game. She can literally look into a room through the security cameras and tell you if the enemy's taking a dump. That's not her AI, but she probably could. Which makes me think that she must be some sort of, I want to say Skynet type entity, but that wouldn't be completely true because she has a conscience. She is not, even though she has a human body, and she is most likely made up of the collective will of, I would say, the internet, or some entity like it, some network that she is a part of, or, is an embodiment of, I suppose. You have to question that would mean that she is a machine. However, she shows emotion. She will change her emotions throughout the battle. Depending upon what happens, say that her allies get massacred. She discovers this. She has at times changed the mission profile based off of her emotions alone, telling you to, instead of performing a task at the research facility, to exterminate them to get revenge or something. Like, so she does have human emotions, and she is swayed by human things of the brain that can't be replicated. And maybe it can be replicated with the alien technology. That is a possibility. But I really don't think that a conscience like that could be replicated. At least, not the way she's portrayed. She's portrayed as being very human, despite the fact that she is essentially, if the internet had a poster child, I suppose you could say. Now this brings me to my Lotus theory. I would say that there was a network of some sort, way back when the original Tenno, before they were Tenno, separated and went into the void. There was a network of some sort. It could be the internet. It could be some other network. I really don't know. I'm going off the wall here. But through discovering the Orokin technology, they discovered reason to believe that networks of some such sort may possess entities that are soul-like in nature, but you just have to have a medium for it, and thus someone from the void well, not someone from the void, a colonist of the void that was human, sacrificed herself so that whatever entity she felt was important, maybe the internet, maybe some other network, was able to communicate in the human form. If you want a religious example, similarly to how in Christianity God was able to send his son Jesus in the human form so that his will may be spread, not through preachers, because preachers tend to, if you actually follow a lot of the Roman Catholic stuff and all the different religions, preachers tend to preach whatever they freaking want and claim it's holy. But this was a legit son of God and blah blah blah. So similarly, the Lotus may be like that. Like they realize that a network on such a scale would be a very valuable asset. It would be an all-knowing asset. It would be something that would give them unparalleled advantage. And through integration of a person as a medium, they could possibly do this. And because it was with organ technology, as I theorize, that they were able to form a symbiosis, if you will. Now, the internet has a focused will. It has feelings and emotions. The internet has become a person through the Lotus. However, for gaining its personality and the person itself becoming immortal, there are drawbacks. The Lotus obviously can't do anything on her own. She is an entity of I would say information. But information does not change anything. Information in physical terms does not drive things. So, this is what I theorize, that after they did this and they made the Tenno suits and the Lotus became her own entity, that that they asked for her assistance, and she, thinking it over, decided that because the person that she was bound with was on their side, she understood their plight and decided that she has more knowledge on how to fight the enemy and stop them from doing whatever it is they're doing wrong, more so than any collection of people or even another entity itself could ever have, because she's the only entity that has a collective conscience on such a mass data storage, if that makes any sense. And the Tenno are the physical foot soldiers. They have more ability to carry out the orders of the Lotus to be the framework of change. The Lotus, if I could make this a more interesting illustration, the Lotus provides the instructions and the Tenno carry them out. And that is why she seems to be in charge of the Tenno. However, she displays as if she's like their friend to them. She acts as though she's their friend or family and cares about them, despite the fact that she leads them, which is very interesting. It's just something interesting that I found that was never explained. It's an interesting character concept, and I just thought it would be interesting to share my little 2 cents about what it could be. So if this was interesting to anybody, I hope that helps, and I guess if you like this, then I will continue to make little series of my own. But that's it for Warframe for now.